Good evening. Welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee. This is our regular June 16, 2025 meeting. Recognize that we have a full attendance of the Bedminster Township Committee here in person. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, Mayor. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News Somerville, Burnsville News Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 7th, 2025.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now is the time of the meeting that we open up the microphone up here or the Zoom session for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to make a comment, ask a question. Now is your opportunity to do so. Once again, as we remind folks, you are not guaranteed of answers and you are not guaranteed of a dialogue with the Township Committee. Michelle, if you could please give your full name and street. We don't need your house number.
Michelle Hoffman. I live on Hyde Court in Parkside. I've been corresponding with many of you over the past 3 years regarding Affordable Housing Trust Fund account. I do understand that it currently has a balance of $3.7 million. I've asked on numerous occasions what the requirements would be to get some type of grants for capital improvements in the community, because we still have about a quarter of the community that falls under the affordable housing guidelines. I did pull up the UHAC documents, as have been referenced to me many times in emails, and the definition of affordable development, according to their document, says it means a housing development, all or a portion of which consists of restricted units. So therefore, we do fall under the definition of an affordable development. If anybody would like a copy of this, I printed it out. Each time I've inquired about getting any type of funding, it's always been told that people would have to requalify financially in order to get that, at least those units that are still deemed affordable. I want to know where it's documented that requalification is required for any type of assistance. Because when there was a grant offered back in 2016 from COA, there was no recertification or requalification that was required. And that went to the 4 communities to help with capital improvement projects. Also questioning that the last spending plan in 2018 has not been done since. When I was here on Thursday, the attorney mentioned that there was another one done in 2023, but I've learned from Robin that that was not adopted in anticipation of the new affordable housing regulations in 2024. There also has been no affordable housing board or committee. And when we had that meeting in 2021, when CGP&H first came about, we were told that there would be an advisory board, which apparently was in effect for 21 and 22, had very few meetings. And then I was told after that the Township Committee decided to do away with that. So I want to know how these spending plans are being calculated, who's monitoring them, and who is actually working on a spending plan.
Okay.
And I'm speaking on behalf of my community because I do serve on the board, which I have for 10 years.
Okay.
So I've emailed, no one can seem to give me answers. I was hoping coming in person, I might be able to get some answers or get somebody to actually research this and respond with some answers.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments on the affordable housing spending plan issue? No one on Zoom?
I'm not seeing any raised hands, Mayor.
Okay, so while we do talk about you're not guaranteed of an answer or a dialogue, we do have the opportunity to respond. And Michelle, you raised something at the land use board meeting that I agree with, that with the presuming we get through the filings for the housing element and fair share plan, let's see, by June 30th, John, that's right. That will take the burden off Bedminster from having to build and pay for or otherwise contribute to the development of new affordable housing or procuring additional affordability units in town. And therefore, I think it is appropriate that we go back and look at the spending plan and reallocate within the spending plan to those elements that where money can be put to better use. As to your specific issue and to your question as to where is the spending plan and how is it, and to your issue about the requalification, how money can be let out from the spending plan, I'm going to defer to Gina.
Right, so we just had a meeting
And
with
to John.
CPG&H regarding that, and was what our question was taken there, so. Well, there were a lot of questions regarding the services they provide. However, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, that money cannot be released to an association unless it's reimbursing or covering the cost of people who are income qualified. So it's on an individual family has to be income qualified. Say, for example, you want to do a roofing project. And 50% of the families are in affordable units. So then 50% of whatever it's going to be covered, those families would have to re-income qualify, and then a check, I guess, would be given to the association based on who qualified. That's what I understood. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. So
Okay.
say for example, a association has a new roof put on one of its buildings and they want reimbursement from the Affordable Housing Fund. There's typically an assessment that is assessed against individual owners. Let's say the assessment's $5,000 an owner toward the roof. Anyone that is income qualified can approach the town, and then that $5,000 check would go directly to the HOA to make sure that the money actually went to the HOA. So that's how it will work. The regulations simply do not allow the town to write a check to the HOA without having certain owners go through a qualification process. So for example, if 10% of the owners are still income qualified, 10% of the roof would qualify for affordable assistance. If it was 50% or 60%, those percentages would qualify. So it's quite a simple procedure, but a HOA can't simply come in and say, we spent $200,000 for a roof, give us a check. Because there may be a certain number of people, of course, that are no longer income qualified. And then that would be allocating money to people that are not eligible.
Where is it documented? Like, where are these regulations where it's documented saying people have to qualify?
Throughout the entire UHAC and other regulations.
But I have read through the UHAC affordability controls, and I don't see any commitment that stipulates to that.
Well, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I could tell you that the towns are not allowed to give money out to people that aren't qualified.
But where is that document?
I don't have the UHAC regulations in front of me, ma'am. I don't know them by heart. You could look in the UHAC regulations at
And that's what
5:80 26.1 et sec.
that's
5:26.1 et sec. You could also look at the UHAC regulations that were issued in December of this year that expire in December of next year. There are also further UHAC regulations that should be issued shortly.
So there's UHAC regulations for December of 24.
You could look at both those and the ones that were in existence prior to that.
So the takeaway, certainly from the Township Committee, is Gina and Renee, you were both going to meet with continued discussions with CGP&H, with Frank Banish, our planner, looking at where the money is currently allocated through that 2018 spending plan
Mhm.
and looking at updating it, changing stuff around right now. So the down payment assistance, that's been the same down payment assistance for years.
Yeah, and we also discussed today in the meeting with them, other programs that other towns are using as far as assistance goes that we can implement here in Bedminster, because we do want the funds to be used for residents that qualify and also for the sustainability of the affordable housing program in the future in Bedminster. I'm a huge proponent for affordable housing. I bought a unit, sold a unit, bought another unit, sold another unit. And we would like to see families that qualify use that money accordingly. So we did ask, as far as the down payment assistance goes, for example, when I bought and sold again, I was never offered or told about that. But CPG&H says that every time a family gets under contract, they present them personally to each family, the down payment assistance.
And they do that after qualification.
Yeah,
So
well,
by that time,
yes. So they,
things already in place
Yeah.
for a transaction to close.
exactly. And so they are, that's what they said, that they do address each family individually. So if they decide to apply or not decide to apply, that's on them, but they are being presented with the information. But we're even looking into other additional programs where we can use the funds to assist families, either new families coming into Bedminster or families that are existing that are qualified for the affordable housing program. And so they're gonna look at future programs or assistance programs that we can provide for the use of those funds.
And this goes throughout the 4 different associations where affordable housing is really constituted. So that's
Correct.
Village
Green,
Green,
Side,
Portland,
Portland. And I guess
Timberbrook to some
Timberbrook, a few of them.
extent. And
Mhm.
also these, is Pluckman Senior? It is affordable.
Mhm.
Is that also subject to the same UAC rules?
They can also qualify for assistance.
Okay.
Mhm. And we also discussed marketing said programs once they come available to families that are qualified in the affordable housing program, but they would have to requalify because everyone's situation changes.
And what is CGPH telling as far as the anticipated new rules coming out of DCA?
Okay, so I asked about that too. The 30% of the fund being used for programs and stuff like that, and the numbers are going to change and they don't have the numbers yet. So just like with a lot of programs in the state, they don't have new regulations, but the old ones aren't valid anymore. So we're just waiting on direction for that.
It should be soon. My understanding from them is that they've actually been released. They just haven't been published and gone through a comment period yet. So the ones that are in December that amended the prior ones at 580-26.1 at SEC are the ones that presently govern.
So would it be premature to do the spending plan now, or do you wait until the draft rules are issued, or do you wait until they're finally adopted?
In terms of some of the limits, for example, the 2,500 limit for down payment assistance, you could certainly look at adjusting some of those. We also talked about, we have a present need obligation of 6 units for rehabilitation. We talked about that has been raised to 13,000, although the director of CGP&H typically said he's seeing as a rehabilitation requirement per unit $20,000 to $24,000 per unit. So,
And so that those rehab is grants.
Bring
Those
things
go
up to
for,
code.
what's the eligibility for that as far as
Income-
what can be spent? What can the money be spent on? Is it-
bringing units up
Bring
to
it to
code,
code.
replacing hot water heaters, deficient kitchens, plumbing. So
So that's on a per unit basis?
it's on a per unit basis. It's an average.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering about.
I mean, sometimes it might be less, sometimes.
We're saying-
To Ms. Hoffman's question about roofing,
Right.
That was my thing.
could that, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
No, that was my example, is that, if the association needed a new roof, that's what I asked in the meeting. And it has to be the unit owner has to re-income qualify. And then their portion of the total assessment would be able to be covered by the trust fund.
So even on rehabilitation, you still, the money goes to a unit owner as opposed to association.
Everything is based upon the individual unit owner requalifying.
Everything, that's what they said.
The state does not want to see people that, for example, have been living in the units, and whole purpose of affordable housing is to improve your situation. So if originally when you moved in, for example, and you were making 60,000 a year, you were eligible for affordable housing. Now, 10 years later, you're doing great. You're making 150,000 a year. You're not eligible for an affordable housing grant. And people that are living under a roof, that are not eligible, the HOA is not eligible. So again, it's quite simple. If 50% of the people living in that building are income qualified, the HOA will get 50% towards the roof if those people come in.
So
But they've gotta
it's still units and restriction,
Yes,
and then income qualified
Yeah.
within those units and
Yeah.
restrictions.
yes.
Correct. And also I asked about dues, because I was not aware if dues are the same for, now we have a lot of units that are market rate. And are the dues the same for market rate as for affordable? And can we offset the cost of the affordable dues with that money? And I was told no. So, and I don't know if you want to speak to that, but that was something, and there's a law that says no, but I did ask.
You know, imagine an affordable housing building that had 10 units in it. None of the people were now income qualified. You can't give the HOA money for that roof no more than if you came in and said, I want a new roof. You're not income qualified.
Right.
So it's based on need.
Okay.
Current need.
But we do have a dues assistance program, but it's like a one-time thing because, again, we can't offset the cost of dues, just,
Mm,
because it's not sustainable, right? This has to be programs that are sustainable for the long-term use of affordable housing. And the unit owners have to be income qualified because like when I owned, I had 2 little children and now my kids are adults. So then I wouldn't qualify anymore because of my family size, right? So things change, situations change regularly. And so people have to be requalified.
Okay.
Just like we had an example you brought up during the meeting today, Robin, in Village Green, when we had the fire there.
Right.
And the funds were used to assist those folks. So,
And they income qualified.
and they income qualify.
Essentially, any affordable housing trust funds that are used, they have to be, the person has to be income qualified.
Correct.
Affordable housing trust funds, period.
Okay, and we're getting that from CGPNH, and CGPNH is full of the DCA alums who worked on the UHAC rules in the first place.
These are all people advising us that were working under COA, working under the Department of Community Affairs. They do this over many, many towns, and they know these rules inside and out.
Correct.
And does anybody know the process for requalification? Where does he start? with that?
You go to CPG&H, they'll give the person forms and they fill them out.
And-
They told me that they were more sold.
No,
They
they absolutely do,
They do.
because that's
They
why
do.
we pay them. And also they would like to use the funds for things like income assistance. They would like families to be using these, right? Because that's what they're there for. So they will definitely provide those.
And any more thoughts about the board or committee for the affordable housing?
You know, I'll defer to Gina and Renee, who are liaisons with respect to affordable housing. And you guys don't have to answer now, you can think about it and
I mean,
digest it
if
later on.
it's required, I would definitely do it. I would have no problem implementing it or trying to find people to be on it and but if it's something that if PG&H is managing our affordable housing program and the funds and they're professionals and we're paying them to do it, it's, an advisory committee is just to give advice. They don't really make any decisions. So I mean, I don't know if it would be beneficial and it's required, then yeah.
Just like when there was the VHC, there was the VHC committee,
Right.
which consisted of a member of each of the affordable housing associations, but then 4 members from the master association, and then I believe some 4 township.
Right. And they were an
Yeah, that
advisory
was a
committee
special-
or?
They were the VHC committee, that's all.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
not part of.
So there's a different, like.
It is-
words
Yeah,
that- there's
that's
advisory
actually,
committee.
those are two different elements. One was a board, so it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily an advisory committee.
But yeah, in 2021, you did say there would be an advisory committee, there was.
And we did have one. They did have a couple meetings and they've have not been reconstituted.
Well, I think a lot of people would like. to see it be-
That's up to you. We're minority members on that advisory committee. Well, you get the people together that.
Well, John, it just let Gina and Renee deal directly with that issue.
Okay.
And so Michelle, you can reach out to them about convening, reconvening the committee.
Right.
So we'll defer to you guys on that. The microphone and Zoom is still open.
Yes, I would like to speak because I'm hearing a lot of lies and misinformation. My name is Heather Hotston. I'm an affordable housing owner in Parkside. Is Renee in the room?
I'm here.
Heather, we still need your full name and your street.
Hodston, that's H as in Harry, O as in octopus, D as in David, S as in Sam, D as in David, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy. I live at 16 Hyde, that's HYDE Court. You're good?
Yep.
Okay, great. So Renee is aware of the fact she's been copied on these emails that since last September, I've been trying to quote unquote requalify with CGP and H for different things we plan to do at Parkside. I've sent numerous emails. I've gone back and forth. She directed me to several people only to find out in a letter to me, December 29th, that you're not even with this program of requalification. I did speak with Melissa at CPG&H, who's now in charge of our account, and she clarified that David is responsible for a program that we do not participate in. So I don't know why you're saying all this stuff about requalification. You don't even have this set up. I don't even know if it's even legal for you to do this. I wasn't income qualified when I got in here. And for you giving examples, people making these huge 6-figure salaries, please, if you know a job like that, I'd be more than happy to take it. So, so I don't know what you think you've signed up for, and I'd love to know who else has done this requalification because there's nobody in Parkside that's done it. So.
Can you just specifically talk about what program you're talking about? So I'm trying to understand what
This
you're saying.
whole
Qualify
requalification you
for.
keep talking about that, people can requalify to get money into their communities. There's no such thing.
If your community has a project that they're working on and you're income qualified, there are affordable housing trust funds that you would have to requalify for, and then that would cover your portion of your community's project that qualified. Does that make sense?
So this is not true. Who's speaking?
Gina.
Okay, Gina.
Lisa Fernandez.
So that is not true at all. You did not even sign up with CPG&H for any type of program where they requalify people. You don't have that set up with them, and you never have apparently.
I think you're
We do
misinformed,
actually.
Heather. We do.
I'm sorry, this is Robin. I'm the township administrator. We do have CGH. They requalify or they qualify people on a regular basis for us. And I can tell you the fees that we pay.
But they don't requalify people. You don't have that set up.
We do have it set up, but we don't have a program. And we don't have a program from any of the different affordable housing neighborhoods that would require requalification, such as a roof project or.
Right. You don't have that. You only have, and Renee is well aware of all these emails. You only do the down payment assistance that apparently you've signed up for with them. And you also do if someone's behind in their HOA fees. You have that program set up with them.
Correct.
That's correct. So
Those are the only 2 programs you have set up with them.
and what program were you referring to?
Again, the program where my community needs money and I requalify.
Well, we don't just give money to communities. We are not allowed to. We have to give them for individual homeowners based on a project.
Okay, but you don't have anything set up where my community is putting on a new roof and I'm going to requalify to get some money donated for it.
Have you applied for anything?
I tried,
They don't
but you don't
requalify.
have it
They're-
set up.
They don't requalify without there being an application without an
There
application
is no such
or
thing
a
as an
project. So
application.
if you have a project and it falls within one of the tranches
Ugh.
of the Affordable Housing Fund, then that's a project that falls in.
Right, but you
And,
don't
and
have
Gina
this.
has already talked about making sure that if there's a program that works, or if there is a project coming out that's going to involve a special assessment of dues or anything else, that check to see whether that currently qualifies under the
Wait,
dues assessment.
We have lots
Or
of
if there
things.
needs to be a new one in place that does cover that.
Yeah. So I don't know what project you were talking about that you wanted to
We
reapply.
didn't even get that far because you don't have anything set up where you don't pay for that. Apparently, you'd have to pay extra to have CPG&H doing that for you.
Right, because there's no current projects that we would be covering, but we would
So-
pay CPG&H to requalify people, just not willy-nilly. We need a project for them to be requalified for.
There's lots of projects we have going on up here. So I'm not sure why but you said earlier that, oh, we participate and people can get recertified and get money for their community, but that's not true, is what I'm telling you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hodgson.
So I guess this is not getting resolved. All right.
There's also, Heather, you and I spoke about this, there's also, on their phone tree, I believe, for CGP and it says to be requalified for a program. That program that's on there, that is not one that Bedminster participates in. So that's a little confusing. I know you and I have spoken about that because I reached out to CGP and H and found
Correct.
that.
What is
So-
that program?
I don't know. It's not anything that we do. So I didn't even go any farther with that. So now we're looking into these other things right now. Gina was just talking about that. So
So if you think there is actually, and this is for anyone there, if you think there's actually a way for someone to apply and get funding, because we're doing all sorts of things in my community, then I can give you my email and you can please reach out to me and let me know what you think it is. And I'd be more than happy to copy you on all the emails.
So Renee, you have her, Heather
do.
Hodgson's email. If you can give that to Gina.
sure.
And Gina, you okay dealing with that offline?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
Microphone is still open.
Oh, I see Mr. Bauer has a question. Mr. Bauer, if you can unmute yourself, there you go.
Yes, I understand there's a
Mr. Bauer, your full name and your address.
Rick Bauer, Richard Bauer, and I have units in both Parkside and Cortland.
But you do not live in Bedminster?
I do not live in Bedminster, no. And I understand, question simple. I understand there's a project in Cortland to fix the stairs, the outdoor stairs. And would that qualify? Would that be something that people in Cortland could, that association could apply for and some people could get reimbursed for?
Go ahead, John.
So Gina, I'm not sure if you
So-
or John want to cover
Yeah,
that. So that's,
so
so Mr.
there's
So
a
to be clear,
project
Mr. Bauer
like
Mr. Bauer owns a number of units.
So Mr.
that are
Bauer would be able
rentals.
to apply, but if there are, because he owns multiple units, and I'm sure he doesn't live there, so, right, so that he wouldn't be able to apply. However, if there were families in Cortland that qualify for requalify for affordable housing. And then that possibly is, yes, a project that I would be able to, the association would be able to get reimbursed based on that unit.
And
The
again,
people wouldn't
the
get.
association has to approach the township and say, here's a project we're looking to get funds for. The township would likely say, okay, did you go out and get bids? Just like we have to get bids when we do projects, because we don't want to give assistance on something that hasn't gone out or at least received bids. So the association would approach the township would make a decision as to whether it was a project that it wished to grant assistance to. If it did, then the people that lived in that particular building where the stairs needed repairs would come forward and say, okay, we've got X number of people that want to get requalified income wise, and we would pay on a percentage basis.
So John, you're now talking about a process and procedure
Correct.
that Gina and you and Renee and CGP&H can work out those details about how it's presented, when it's ripe and ready, and how, and since, there's going to be some allocation dictated by the DCA rules, X% of your affordable housing goes in this tranche, another tranche, another tranche. And then whether it's on a competitive basis or first come, first served, those details will be worked out, I imagine, after the DCA rules are issued. But in the meantime, certainly you can start working on amending the spending plan to prioritize those items.
Yeah. So that
Correct. We
is correct.
don't know what's out there until they come forward and tell us what's out there. And it's up to the individual HOA to essentially present on a project by project basis what they want reimbursement for.
And Mr. Bauer's situation may be a little bit different. So there
Yes.
may be folks in Cortland who own restricted units and will be income qualified. I don't know how that relates to rental units, but I imagine that's something that CGP&H has that expertise with and has some familiarity with how you would qualify rental units a little bit differently.
Right, you have a for-profit owner of rental units.
Landlord,
So that's different than someone that owns a unit and is seeking affordable housing reimbursement. You have someone that's in the business of making money renting units. I would have to investigate, but I think it would be fairly difficult to send that particular unit owner affordable housing money.
All right, but certainly something that you and Gina, Renee, and CGP&H can run through that scenario. Okay.
Mhm.
Ms. Ray, any further comments?
I am not seeing any other hands raised, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We will proceed with the rest of the meeting. And thank you, everyone.
Mhm.
Mr. Bauer, Ms. Hodgson, and Ms. Hoffman, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
We can get some of these funds used properly on a project by project basis, for sure.
Robin, we have no meeting minutes.
No meeting minutes, Mayor.
We do have two permits. Well, one permit, one raffle. First is a social affair permit to benefit Shift Natural Lands Trust on September 27, 2025 from 5 to 9 p.m. Located at the Preserve at Dunwalkie Farms, 12215 Roger Cross Road. And an off-premise merchandise raffle amendment to benefit New Jersey State Golf Association Youth Foundation on July 22, 2025 from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Hamilton Farm Golf Club. Questions or comments regarding the social fair permit and the merchandise raffle? Take a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
A monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, but before we do, I do want to hit on an issue that came up at our last public comment session, not at this meeting, but the meeting before. Mr. Rasavi had asked a question about whether or not Bedminster could charge additional fees for applicants trying to participate in the farmland assessment. Committeeman Hickey and I reached out to Kevin McDonald, who is our tax attorney, presented the question directly to him. And let me read off his response. I did look at the statute, NJSA 54:4-23.13. The statute subpart that deals with the determination of eligibility. The only part of the statute that speaks to a fee is where it states the application review shall include an on-site inspection of the land at least once every 3 years. The municipality may impose a fee for an on-site inspection of not more than $25, except that contiguous and non-contiguous parcels of land owned by the same owner would be subject to a single fee. Kevin goes on to say the rest of the statute uses mandatory language, shall, must, etc., with respect to the submission and the determination of the application. There is no other language that would permit the township to impose any additional fee with respect to farmland assessment applications. So Mr. Wasabi had asked the question whether or not we could, essentially charge $1,000 per application for owners looking to participate in the farmland assessment program. According to our tax attorney, the answer is no. Okay, with that, we'll go to monthly report discussions by subcommittee chair. We'll start with Committee Woman Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Rec is gearing up for summer camp. And it starts on June 20. Oh, I don't know. It's my calendar, June 28th, maybe. And that's all. They're just working hard, getting ready for that, and no other updates.
I think we understand they're fully booked, right?
Yep. Oh, no, June 23rd, I think. No,
That's a month.
30th. Sorry.
Great.
Yeah.
Committee Woman Mareski.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is to remind people, if they haven't seen a flyer yet for Moth Night, we'll be doing another one this year, and that will be on Saturday, the 28th at 8:30. The 28th at 8:30 at River Road Park, and that's where we put out a big sheet, sprinkle it with beer, and wait till it gets dark, and the sheet gets filled with lovely moths, and the kids really have a good time with it. So
Great.
hope to see everybody out there.
Great, thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, all. Board of Health, there are no applications, so there'll be no meeting this month. However, we will be having an IT subcommittee meeting later this week with between myself, Ms. Ray, and Elliot Perez. We're going to discuss some IT projects coming up and some potential cost savings opportunities. Some more to follow on that one. And Mayor, you and I have a library board meeting on Wednesday, and that's all I have.
Okay. Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a historic pres meeting coming up. I understand there are 2 applications, so we'll see what happens. As for Department of Public Works, very busy. Obviously, we continue to do the roadside mowing, down a couple mowers, but we're still getting it done. Obviously, with all the storms we've had recently, a lot of effort's been in with the cleaning out the basins and the pipes. We've actually got a joint project going on right now with Gladstone on that. We had a lighting outage up on Autumn Bridge that has now been addressed, I'm told. If you're experiencing any issues, let us know. And I'm happy to say that we've excuse me, 2 things. We got the installation of new light fixtures down at the DPW office through rebates. It's only going to cost us $1 each for those upgrades. And then the County Board of Health came in to give us an inspection, and Jason and his crew scored an A+. So good work, Jason. Yes, he aced that one.
And that was Board of Health for what inspection?
The outside shop inspection. I guess where you stick everything outside. I don't know.
The yard.
The yard. Yeah, the yard.
All right, A+. Jason.
A+.
Nothing. No reaction from Jason.
He expected it.
Every time. No, it's that's all I've got. But good job, Jason. Very busy. Oh, one other thing. I'm sorry. We got a mill and pave going down and occurring on Lisk Road, Union Grove, and Longview Drive. I believe those occurred.
Oh, that's underway?
It's done.
It's done.
Yep, that's finished.
Oh, now he pops up.
There he is. Good job, Jason. A+.
Thank you.
And Jason, Robin, and Doug, what's the update on community garden?
So we're waiting for the bonds to come in from the contractor, and then we'll have a pre-construction meeting.
So,
He says he's gonna have everything this week.
so that's from the bonding is coming in,
Have everything this week.
and then
We
the
have
pre-con,
pre-construction
when do you think?
next week or two, once we have all the forms and they've been reviewed by the attorney.
And Jason, when do you think, we'll schedule groundbreaking?
Part of first week of July.
Okay. When we can get that firmed up, if we could reach out to the county, I'd like to and certainly invite Commissioner Melanie Morano and the other commissioners to participate. As a nice thank you to the county for the grant that kicked that all off. All right. Land use board, we'll deal with this in a resolution coming up, but we had one issue to consider at the land use board last week, which was the adoption of the housing element fair share plan. And John will talk about that when we get to the resolution. But as Frank Banish put together, and as we've gone through a number of discussions with Frank, with John and Colin and me and Tom Collins, the way it looks, 72 unit obligation on Bedminster can largely be satisfied by the units still in surplus from the development of the hills and other affordable housing. The rental obligation will be satisfied by credits that we've accrued from earlier rental projects, including the Elite project, plus the KRE project, which is coming back in a reduced density, going from 160 to 140. But because of the new affordable housing legislation, which has a 20% set aside for Bedminster rather than a 15% set aside, we actually come out of that project with more affordable housing.
Okay.
It's a little crazy, but it took a lot of number crunching and Frank went through it multiple times, reviewed it with me, reviewed it with Colin, reviewed it with John and Tom Collins. And that's the number that we're going in with, and that satisfies our fourth round affordable housing obligations.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, no, so that's great. We'll talk about that in the resolution coming up, where the Township Committee adopts the plan approved by the planning board. Last week, Robin, Colin, Frank Banish, Paul Ferrero, our engineer, we met with about 16, 17 businesses and property owners in Bedminster Village, similar to what we've done down in Pluckman, speaking with the owners to see what we can do to help them keep their businesses going and not only sustain it, but create perhaps a more vibrant Main Street in Bedminster. Robin, we were there for what, 4 till about 6,
2 hours.
a little over 2 hours. Yeah. So it was a great discussion. Lots of ideas were thrown out there. Some of the items we discussed were parking, which is, in the downtown is always sort of a critical issue. Anything that we can do to support additional retail on the Main Street, because we really have sort of hit and miss retail. We do have some commercial professional space in there, whether it's financial planning or medical space, but it's not really creating a feel or walkability within Bedminster Village. So we're looking to work with these guys to see what works. But there's also a lot of misinformation. Imagine that, misinformation. So there was one property owner who's been sitting on a vacant building that actually has approvals and was under the impression that he could not demo his building, which he now says is unworkable and perhaps cannot be expanded upon, which is what he came before the land use board a number of years ago requesting. He requested an expansion building to knock down 2 buildings, which he was granted. But now he's looking at it and saying, oh, I can't rebuild this building. I can't add on to it. It's structurally unsound. And Bedminster won't let me demo it. And Paul Ferrero asked a great question. Did you ask? I said, well, no. We were told no. Paul said, who did you talk to? Because I'm the guy that would make that decision. Well, I never really asked the question. I just thought I could. And Paul said, look around Bedminster, look around at Pluckman Village, and you requested to demo 2 buildings, and you were given the authority and approval to demo those buildings. Why would you think that would apply to the 3rd building? What you did request was to expand that building, and you received approval for that. So there's misinformation out there, and I think that was quickly disabused at that meeting. You know, we heard from everyone from Delicious Heights and Trattoria Mediterraneo to Ira Katz, who's the owner of the Far Hills Pharmacy property, and he's got ideas for additional uses at that property. And I want to give a special thanks out to Pastor James from Grace Fellowship, who hosted our meeting. The church is beautiful inside. What Pastor James and the church have done to maintain that building, and frankly, it's probably the most vibrant element of Bedminster Village right now. It's just tremendous, and I just want to give a special thank you to Pastor James. And Colin, Robin, your thoughts, your reaction to the meeting?
Well, you hit on it. I mean, that church has kind of rebuilt itself and become a hub and a magnet for activity. I was shocked when they said that 500 people show up every Sunday. They're one of Little Pickle's
Little
biggest
Pickles.
bagel customers. They serve 200 bagels. How many gallons of coffee, right?
Gallons,
How many?
30 gallons.
30 gallons. So they're attracting all these individuals, and it perked up the ears of a lot of the other business owners who were like, how can we work together? Maybe there's retail opportunities to cross pollinate. So it was eye-opening for everybody. Robin, I don't know if you had anything else, but that was
It was
clear.
a nice exchange of ideas.
Yeah.
And they all started talking offline about sharing their parking spaces
Yeah.
when one business is closed and the other one's open. So it kind of just got a dialogue going, which was nice.
Yeah, and some of the other ideas thrown out there were street fairs and
Yeah.
other ways of just bringing people down to Bedminster Village and Main Street that haven't worked. We talked about certainly, just as we did with Pluckman, one meeting is not the end of it. And I do intend on reaching out to Far Hills and having a fully comprehensive discussion regarding the Main Street community, right? Because that corridor doesn't necessarily end at the river or the bridge. It's all part of one consistent commercial corridor. So we look forward to further engagement, both with the Bedminster folks as well as eventually folks in Far Hills as well. Farmers Market, 2 rainy weekends in a row, Colin.
Yeah, like that.
How were our numbers?
We managed to still attract 743 people this past weekend, which 2 years ago would have been an average Saturday, but now we're kind of disappointed, like we didn't break 1,000. But the rain did not discourage people from showing up with umbrellas and raincoats and coming out and shopping. So it was terrific.
Yeah, some people just come out for just coffee and
Yeah.
maybe a pastry.
Yeah.
Who would come out in the rain for that? Yeah, they've got to really like the market. That's all I have from my report. Ms. Ray.
Somerset Hills Public.
Oh, didn't we cover that last? I thought we did.
Yeah,
We did? Well, you know what? That comes up later in the meeting.
there you go.
Yeah. So Ms. Ray, administrator's report?
So, yes, Mayor, thank you. We were preparing for elections the prior week, and last week was actually the primary election. The unofficial results are printed on our homepage as always, the night of the election, and the more detailed results are printed at the county if anybody would like to follow district by district the details. Attended the May Street Merchants meeting with the mayor. We conducted CFO interviews last week, and I also had the pleasure of meeting with CGP&H on several different topics last week as well as this week. And following up with the State Historic Preservation Office with the 2 properties that the township purchased in the center of Pluckman for a pocket park. And that concludes my report.
Oh, so just come back to the pocket park,
Mhm.
just quick update on,
Sure. So we had an archaeological study done, which was required. There's an application for project authorization, which goes to the State Historic Preservation Office. We sent them our preliminary design plans, which they approved, which is a good step because we're trying to engage all the stakeholders. And then now it's just submitting the application and waiting for the approval, which usually come within, about 2 weeks. They were very
Okay.
quick with the turnaround last time. And then we can go ahead and go out to bid. The design documents are, preliminary design documents are in place, so.
and the working title is still Encampment View
Encampment View Park.
Park. Okay, all right. It's a working title.
Needs work.
All right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lieutenant Polito.
Good evening.
Good evening. So before we get into community policing, which you guys had a little bit of a rainy Saturday at the market on the child seat tests,
I blame Neil.
but perhaps you can just talk to us about Sundays. Was it? Yeah, it was Sunday. No, it was Saturday.
Saturday.
Geez, I'm sorry. Saturday afternoon after the market, with the Trump rally coinciding with the No Kings rally.
Okay, well, we had about 100 people total show up, 50 for each group. The pro-Trumpers showed up around 9 a.m. and the No Kings started showing up around 1:30. The chief and I, along with 7 of the officers, we all came in early. We spread out amongst the field, and it was the typical interaction between the two groups, just yelling silly things at each other. There's no issues, no problems. They started breaking up around 5 o'clock, and there was a few stragglers left hanging out in the parking lot around 5:30, 6 o'clock. And that was about the extent of the day.
Good. So I will say, I drove by, I know Colin, I mean, you can't help but driving by because you live right there. It looked like Bedminster PD had everything under control. So Lieutenant Polito, to you and the chief, well done. And to all the Bedminster PD that were working. Was that one shift or were there 2 different shifts that were coming in?
No, we brought guys in who were off, and we brought people in early just to make sure we had plenty of officers covering that entire area.
Good. Well, once again, job well done. And on behalf of all the Bedminster residents, particularly those in that area, thank you for everything you guys did and for keeping the peace out there.
Thanks.
All right. Lieutenant Polito, while I have you, anything further on community policing?
We have, as we've been doing the past, I guess, few months, the Detective Bureau has been going out to the preschools and interacting with the kids. We have one more. I think they're going to be hitting Primrose next week, I believe.
Oh, that's great.
And then we do plan on trying another car seat in late summer, early fall. And that's what we have in the works for right now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lieutenant Polito. Ordinances. We actually have 2 ordinances to introduce. First is ordinance number 2025-014, amending Chapter 2 entitled Administration, Section 2.9, entitled Police Department of the Township of Bedminster General Ordinances. And Robin, our change is,
Mayor, as you know, the Township Committee and the Bedminster Township Board of Education agreed to move forward with an agreement to employ a Class 3 police officer, which is a special law enforcement officer strictly for the school, known as a school resource officer. The school will be reimbursing the township for all the expenses associated with that officer. However, the officer is an employee of Bedminster Township because the school can't hire a police officer. This ordinance identifies the different classes of officers that we have, which we have not done in the past. We figured it was important to identify what a Class 1, Class 2, and a Class 3 is. So it covers the special law enforcement officer.
and what is I know this is not necessarily part of the ordinance, but what is the timing for the special for the township school?
So August.
August, okay.
1st of August.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the introduction of ordinance number 2025-014? And Robin, our next meeting is July 7th.
That's correct.
So if we approve the introduction of this ordinance, the public hearing will be scheduled for 7 o'clock in these chambers on July 7th.
Correct.
Everyone going to be here?
I don't know.
Tina's already,
Wow.
Tina's mentally going through her calendar.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, big class, sorry. Question on this. Doug, you're good? Okay, so if there's no further questions or comments, take a motion to introduce the ordinance number 2025-014.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next ordinance for introduction is an ordinance amending chapter 2 entitled Administration and establishing new section 2-26 entitled Jacobus Vanderveer House Commission. So as I think most folks know, our negotiations with the Friends of the JVH reached an impasse. It's been well covered by the Burnsville News. Thank you, Pat. And we do not see the termination of lease negotiations to be a termination of the programming or the work of the Jacobus Vanderveer House and maintaining that property as a museum. And perhaps what we do see is re-engaging and reactivating that house and the furnishings inside and promoting it on a more active basis and more frequent basis, and certainly bringing the operations and programming again of the JVH house into the Bedminster community. I think it's been well covered already on where we stood with lease negotiations, the asks that were made of the board, the reaction from the board, and then, had those very early asks had been addressed and been met with approval as they had said they would be before they actually, it's time to sign, it would all been said and done. But there's certainly something to be said about negotiations and the way negotiations happen. And that to some extent that even the negotiation process itself can be educational. And I think we learned something about the current constitution of that board as we went through the negotiations. So just a quick reminder, a little over a year ago, Ms. Ray and I met with the board of the JVH and we said, look, fundraising is down, your participation with the Bedminster community is down, you're not doing anything with the school. We want to get some Bedminster representation on the board as part of this lease renewal. Great idea, welcome it, love the idea of having Bedminster participation. I asked for a third of the board seats. What? That's great. That's great. We're going to keep everything in place. That's a good idea. It's going to reactivate everything. We really lost some board participation. Originally, the board was in the 20s, and then it was down to 6, and they were even having trouble finding those 6. And certainly some of those 6 that were there were not necessarily participatory in the programming itself. So the idea was put some township committee representatives on there, not necessarily township committee representatives, but township committee appointees on that board. And so that's a great idea, great idea. John built it into the lease and it was greeted with a resounding thud. okay, so after, 18 different reasons as to why that was a bad idea, they finally came around and said, okay, we can deal with this. But then this township committee was essentially seeing the reaction going, there's something going on here. There's something going on. For all the work that the township committee does on the JVH house, DPW particularly, there's something going on. And then, Doug, I think you raised the issue about participation with some of the utilities, right? You guys put some money to the utilities, just something. Once again, the reaction to that negotiation was dreadful. The number that we asked John to go back with was pretty darn low, but the reaction was disproportionate to the ask. And we know that there were some discussions had within the board. One board member resigned. His resignation was sent to all of us, was sent to the county historical commission, and was sent to the county commissioners. Copy of it also went to the Burnsville News, so the Burnsville News had reported on that. So that may have been coinciding with our discussions on lease negotiations, and this committee gave direction to Attorney Bellardo to terminate the lease negotiations. And we've let folks know that, once again, this is not the end of the JVH house. In fact, if anything, this is an opportunity to revitalize the operation of the house. We talked about drafting an advisory board, but frankly, the idea of an advisory board was, that is advisory. We're actually looking for something that's going to be more operational. So John had suggested that we could perhaps set this up as a commission. We do it as an ordinance, and commission operates as a body subject to the Open Public
Meetings Act.
Yeah. So those meetings will be open. And what this ordinance does, it establishes a JVH, or Jacobus Van Veer House Commission, up to 15 members to be appointed by the mayor and the township committee. And of the representatives who would participate on that commission, at least one from township committee, one member from the recreation committee, one member from the historic preservation commission, and one member to be designated by the Bedminster Board of Education. This way we bring in historic pres, we bring in recreation, we bring in the Board of Ed, and then with the others, we can fill those out as appropriate. And I'll tell you, since we've talked about establishing a commission, we've been approached by 3 current members of the JVH board who were not antagonistic to having municipal representation on their board, and they want to participate in this new commission. We've heard from former members of the Friends of the JVH who've asked to participate on this commission. And that includes some folks who were significant donors and original, I'm not sure how original, but they go back to some of the funding opportunities that helped establish the operation of the house. I've also reached out to folks from outside Bedminster who has specialty and expertise in historic buildings and the operation of historic museums. They want to participate. So I think we're in very good shape to get the commission established, to coordinate with the current Friends of the JVH on the transition of material and furnishings. And also to move forward with the long stalled barn project that perhaps with Bedminster's participation, that barn can finally be erected. And what we will do is essentially we will activate that end of River Road Park. just as we've done with the farmer's market. So it's another activation because you have community garden and JVH next to each other. So hopefully there's some synergy there that can get worked out. Jason can be very quiet as we talk about DPW erecting a barn.
He's researching colonial vegetables.
Yes, yes, he is. Right. If anyone's been to Jockey Hollow and the Wick Garden up there, you can certainly do something just like that. Robin, anything, or John, anything further on the meats of this ordinance?
No, I think it's a good ordinance and as the mayor indicated, I think it will reignite the JVH house and enthusiasm for the house.
So I actually have an email where John, after he was drafting the commission, said he's actually enthused. John, I've known you a very long time.
I'm rarely
I mean,
enthused
you're
about
rarely enthused. So, I take great pleasure in reading that.
I was asked many, many years ago by former Mayor Metelsky to be on the JVH board, but I had a conflict at the time representing another board that met those nights.
Well,
No conflict now.
for the right donation to the JVH commission,
Yeah.
there might be a spot for you there.
They need an attorney still, though.
That could do it. There you go. So if there's no further questions or comments, take a motion to introduce ordinance number 2025-015. If introduced, the public hearing for this ordinance will be scheduled for July 7th at 7 p.m. in these chambers.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Wait, can you stop?
That was so
Do you want to move it?
Yeah, well, then go ahead. I'll do second.
Renee wants to
You
move.
jumped in all.
Yeah, you did a little,
I was-
you're a
I
little
was
fast
waiting
right
for the-
there.
you hear the silence, you're like, all right, for the silence.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacob.
Aye.
Thank you.
Public hearing for both ordinance 2025-014 and ordinance 2025-015 will be scheduled for July 7th at 7 p.m. Public hearing of ordinances, we have none. Consent agenda, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 items on the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature. Any member of the Township Committee may pull any one of them or all of them off for individual consideration. Seeing none, take a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
First resolution for individual consideration is resolution number 2025-098, authorizing the township attorney to file a copy of this resolution endorsing the housing element and fair share plan adopted by the Township Planning Board on June 12, 2025, pursuant to recent legislation regarding municipalities' compliance with their affordable housing obligations. John, you just want to quickly talk about the meat of the resolution and what it affects as far as process.
Just quickly, and we've gone over this previously, Governor Murphy in March of 2024 signed a law that amended the Fair Housing Act. It allowed municipalities to voluntarily participate in a process to essentially obtain immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits for the period 2025 to 2035 if they participated in the program. DCA came out with numbers in October of 2024. Bedminster's prospective share need number was 72. Our present need or rehabilitation number was 6. In the middle of December, the Administrative Office of Courts came out with Directive 14-24 that established the process by which municipalities would further participate in the program, and that included adopting a resolution by the end of January 2025. We did so affirming those numbers. We then filed a declaratory judgment action within 48 hours as required. By the end of February, interested parties were able to challenge those numbers. No one challenged our numbers with good cause. We hadn't sought a reduction. The planning board put together a amended housing element and fair share plan. That was adopted last Thursday night. I filed by e-courts on Friday morning, the planning board resolution, an amended housing element and fair share plan as required by the program. This is the last step in the process. We are endorsing the action taken by the planning board with respect to the housing element and fair share plan. If this resolution is adopted tonight, then tomorrow I will file the resolution via e-courts. We're ahead of the statutory deadline of January 30th of this year. And then interested parties or others have until August 30th under the program to challenge our plan. I do not anticipate that any such challenge will be forthcoming. It is a comprehensive and well thought out plan that addresses both the prospective need number of 72 and the present rehabilitation need number of 6.
Okay, John, you had mentioned January 30th. It's June 30th for the deadline. to
Yes,
get this
did I
done.
say
So,
January?
so June 30th. But most importantly, the timeline for anyone filing a contest of the plan would have till August 30th,
End of August.
end of August. Okay.
And all municipalities in the state that are participating in this process are undergoing similar hearings and adopting similar plans. Municipalities are not required to do this, but those that do not run the risk of a builder or developer coming in and seeking a builder's remedy.
And John, if there is no contest or appeal or objection filed by the end of August, are we done at that point? Other than
Yeah,
actually seeing the project
A
through?
judge, most likely, the Honorable William Menon will issue a compliance order that essentially is the one that grants you immunity for 10 years.
Okay, so it might, I know Doug's got it.
Well, no, I was just gonna maybe ask that you just speak to what a builder's remedy lawsuit is so that the folks that are following understand what it is we're doing. I mean, we've spoken about this before and it's in sum and substance, it's, I'll let you explain it, but it's Bedminster taking control of affordable housing and not letting someone else come in and do it for us, but please.
That's correct. Dating back to the initial New Jersey Supreme Court Mount Laurel decision in 1975, it held that municipalities had a constitutional obligation to provide for their fair share of low, very low, and moderate income housing. There were subsequent decisions, Mount Laurel 2, Mount Laurel 3, Mount Laurel 4, that built upon that doctrine. The Fair Housing Act was adopted by the legislature in the mid-80s. Council on Affordable Housing was established. It used to be that you would go to the council, get a petition for certification that would protect you from builder's remedy. Eventually, that became a moribund agency. Governors were not appointing commissioners to COA. After a number of court decisions, the New Jersey Supreme Court in 2015, March, finally decided COA was a moribund agency. They were going to return the affordable housing obligation to the courts. They, at that time, indicated that any municipality could file a declaratory judgment by July of 2015. Many municipalities did. Bedminster participated in that. Eventually, after a period of about 3 years, we entered a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center, including with respect to a spending plan. Ultimately, that was approved by the Honorable Thomas Miller, now retired. Many attorneys and municipal officials were envisioning a similar process taking place as we came into the 2025 year. But the legislature, as I indicated earlier, in March of 2024, passed an amended Fair Housing Act that provided for a more orderly process. And as you said, Committee Stevenson, there are some municipalities that have elected essentially to roll the dice. They don't feel they have land or other sewer capacity. And so they've not participated in the program, and they have left themselves open to builder's remedy lawsuits. And if that happens, then you don't dictate where the housing goes in your community, a builder dictates where the housing goes. And I think Millburn's a primary example, if you've been following the papers, where essentially by refusing to either participate in the process or adhere to court orders, a special master is now going to decide where the housing goes in that particular community without the benefit of the governing body there deciding on that issue. And as the mayor indicated, Bedminster has been fortunate enough that we have had literally, as Frank Banish likes to say, hundreds of credits for sale units that we have been able to carry over and to reduce our for sale obligation. So we did have a rental obligation, and that is going to be satisfied in large part through the KRE project that was previously approved, and as indicated through an amended site plan that they intend to file, and instead of a 15% set aside, because we're in the Highlands area under the law, a developer is now required to put, with respect to rental, 20% set aside. The Pluckerman Senior is a obligation as to affordability that continues in perpetuity, and we're able to take advantage of those particular units over there also with respect to our rental obligations. So we're in very good shape. And we had some units at Elite, I think, as well, that carried over.
Yeah. Okay, there's no further questions or comments. Take a motion to approve resolution 2025 1. I'm sorry, looking at the wrong resolution. 098.
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
10 years, all of us here can do this again.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Stevenson's already going.
I was getting ahead of myself before. Resolution number 2025-104. Resolution would approve the director of the Division of Local Government Services to establish a dedicated trust for funds dedicated to the Jacobus Vanderveer House. So, Robin has great access to some of the folks who have participated in funding and making donations to the JVH House years ago. And in discussions with them, well, you know, we may not feel as comfortable giving money to the town. So what we discussed was establish a dedicated trust for those funds. So the money that would get dedicated or donated or otherwise provided for, once again, programming, building upkeep, special events, additional furnishings, artwork, or other displays for folks who want to make donations to the JVH House. This way, the funds that come in, and I'm going to use a term that I know you remember, the lockbox. So the funds that come in cannot be used for any other municipal purposes, but solely for the purpose of programming, operations, upkeep, displays, artwork at the JVH House. So there will be a dedicated fund, just as we have a dedicated fund for affordable housing, a dedicated fund for open space. But in order to establish that fund, that trust, we need a resolution by the Township Committee. Robin, did I describe that appropriately?
You did. You have your auditor if you wanted to.
Oh,
address
and
any questions from
Andrew, our auditor, joined on a call with Robin, John, and I to talk. I forgot Andrew was up there, to talk specifically about the creation of a fund for it. Andrew, this is your recommendation to have the dedicated trust set up for the JVH. If there's anything you would like to elaborate or confirm, please do so.
Yeah, no, everything that you said is completely right, Larry. Mayor Jacobs, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to be so casual. Still in a little bit of a head fog from being sick, sorry.
Well, feel better, Andrew.
Well, thank you. But yeah, it just ensures that the funds that come in that are collected and held by the town are only used for that specific purpose. So it's that the town serves as the custodian basically, but it can only be used for the express purposes that the funds are donated for in the trust.
Great. And as we have with the commission, coming down the pike, the commission would certainly make those decisions and recommendations and then have the authority to release those funds. Any further questions regarding that resolution? Renee, I'll take a motion to approve resolution 2025
So move.
104.
So move.
I need a second.
Doug?
Second.
Oh, come on.
Like I said, I wait for the silence.
That was going to
you
be
know.
Doug. I thought it was going to be.
Roll call vote.
As a former JVH board member.
Mr.
He wants to do
Stevenson,
it.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Hi.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next resolution is resolution number 2025-107. This resolution recognizes Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department as a New Jersey Division of Fire Safety designated Level 2 training facility. Robin, what is that?
Well, so this is, I'm gonna grab this, excuse me one second. So it's actually an honor that, Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department is, they're very technical and they're very, they're renowned in their fields where others turn to them to help with training. So they have now been designated as this level 2 by the state, Division of Fire Safety, which is a very big deal. And it puts them in the track for additional funding, grants. It's just another distinction.
Is
Another
additional stuff gonna be like on fire?
No, there's no additional expense to us and anybody who does come here to train underneath them during their drills. You see them out there drilling on Thursdays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Everybody's, there's indemnifications made, so it's all good. It's a very good
Just
honor.
something like, come on, come play with fire, come on. Yeah,
No,
Maybe
it just
we'll-
says that they're very professional in their field.
worry about that.
That's an honor.
We'll use them
It
to
is.
clean up the community garden.
No, and they are very professional. So that's a great recognition.
Absolutely.
And they've been particularly busy with Route 78,
Ugh.
Ugh,
nonstop.
can't even think about it.
So,
So,
by the way, didn't they just win the Firemax competition again this year?
Yeah,
So, I mean, talk about
Yeah.
training. I mean, those guys train hard and it shows in
they
their work.
do. And they're now ahead of the hazmat for Somerset
Right,
County.
right.
So they've really stepped it up.
And
The
they're
most occurrences, with 78 and 287, it's really put them at the top of their game. They have to be constantly on all of the
And they're all volunteers.
And they're all
I don't know how they
volunteers.
do this.
Right,
I
right.
don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
yeah, two small towns working together and putting the volunteers out who operate in such a professional manner. Once again, tremendous job done by Far Hills Bedminster 29.
Great.
There's no further questions or comments. Take a motion to approve resolution 2025-107.
so moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Andrew, you're up for the next two resolutions. Resolution 2025-109, resolution saying that the governing body of the Township of Bedminster has reviewed at a minimum the general comments and recommendations of the registered municipal accountant on the annual audit for 2024. So we'll run through this resolution first and then obviously 110 afterwards. So Robin, Andrew,
I'm going to give it to Andrew.
you're going to give it to Andrew?
Nice job.
Happy to take it away. And again, you're all familiar. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. It may not transmit well there, but I know that you guys know I'm usually very loud and I just can't be right now. So I apologize in advance if you have any difficulty hearing me right now. Okay, so I think that Robin had put into everyone's packet this evening the handout that I usually present to everyone. It's 1 page long, and I'm just going to run through. First, we're going to start out with the results of operations within the current fund. So we had $42 million of revenues in the current fund, offset by $39 million of expenditures. Included in the $42 million of revenues, we did utilize $2 million of fund balance. So just to remind you all, the way that that gets calculated is that 2 million is part of the 42 million, and that's the fund balance that we used. So we really brought in about 40 million and used about 39 million. So the end result was that our fund balance increased from about $10.1 million in 2023 by about 900,000 to a little bit over $11 million at the end of 2024. We did continue to have an excellent tax collection rate. We were at 99.3% again this year, which is actually, I believe it was the same as the amount from last year. So overall, current fund, it's the product of a lot of careful planning by the governing body, by having very attentive department heads, and all the hard work that I know that Robin has put in since Debbie has retired, and I know that you have good folks in there right now in the CFO chair, so it's all attributable to that. As far as the debt of the town, we continue to follow our plan of paying down 1/10 of the outstanding amount of the bond anticipation notes. We paid another $94,700 this year, and we also paid down $14,285 of the Green Acres loans, which will be finally paid off in 2028. So those were just on the payment schedule. With those, it's set, and 2028 will be the last year that we have to make any payments for the Green Acres loans. In the sewer utility fund, at the end of 2024, we had $1,029,000 in revenues. We had $687,000 of expenses, and we utilized $255,000 of fund balance. Again, it's the same. It works the same way as within the current fund. Included in that $1,029,000 is that $255,000 of fund balance. So the net effect for the year is that we increased by about $87,000. So we increased from $2,086,000 as of the end of 2023 to $2,173,000 at the end of 2024. Audit recommendations. There were audit comments and recommendations. There were 2 recommendations that we had in the 2024 report. I know we've been through it a number of times with the segregation of duties, and that it's a very difficult recommendation to pull out of the audit. But we still have the segregation of duties. It's just a matter of the recording and reporting functions being too closely tied. It's extremely common. It's nothing for you guys to be worried about. You do have compensating controls in place, but it's just one of the items that we're required to report on when there is a segregation of duties issue. The other recommendation that we had was that the animal control account was in a deficit position as of the end of 2024. We know that this was like an ongoing thing, that it's working its way out, but it just didn't get there quite by the end of 2024. So we just want to make sure that we don't overexpend the money out of the animal control reserve in 2025. And then we also had 2 management suggestions. Excuse me. The 2 suggestions were for improvement authorizations, that there's still some old outstanding improvement authorizations. We're just looking to review those and cancel any amounts back that we're not planning on spending against any further, and returning the remaining funds back to their individual funding sources. And the last item that was in there, and I'm thinking that this is probably the last year that we're including this in our reports. I'm hoping it's the last year that we're including it in our reports, because I think we've probably had this in now for what has to be the last 3 or 4 years. It's just an advisement that the state, the federal government, they are coming out, they are doing reviews of the way that the COVID funds were spent. But from everything that we've seen, You have everything on file, everything is available. So just make sure that, maintain the files. If they do come out, they're going to be way more scrupulous than we typically are with our audit procedures. They'll look at every little thing, every little date, make sure that every little box was ticked and whatnot. But again, I don't feel like that you would have anything to worry about if they were to come out. It would never amount to anything substantial, in my opinion. So that's all that I have. Again, I'm very sorry how hoarse and how lack of energy I am right now. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to make an attempt at answering them.
Thank you, Andrew. And once again, thank you for your assistance in and advice in giving, well, not just taking us through the audit, but as I mentioned earlier, providing the recommendations for establishing the dedicated fund for the JVH house. Any questions of Andrew or Robin regarding the recommendations and comments of the auditor?
Didn't we start this process in late January?
Yes.
Just saying, we've been through it and through it and through it. So thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions or comments, take a motion to approve resolution 2025-109.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Yeah.
And Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacob?
Aye.
Thank you.
So now that we've passed a resolution saying that we've reviewed the comments and recommendations from our auditor, now we approve a corrective action plan to be submitted by our CFO for the 2024 audit. Robin, Andrew, anything further to say about the resolution and the corrective action plan?
I can just respond.
Sure.
We're working with Jason Gabloff, who's our interim CFO, Jason and myself, and Jim Cosmore, who's also from the same group. We met, discussed that, the adequate segregation of duties, which we always get brought up on, most small towns do. We're constantly evaluating ways in which we can divide these responsibilities among many employees so that we don't run into this issue, but it just keeps happening. And for finding number 2, the appropriation of reserves regarding the animal trust account. We did increase the fees as of January 2025, January 1, 2025, hoping that makes a correction. Somewhat, we haven't increased the licensing fees in over 12 years, so we're hoping that'll help. The fees that we have are fees that are above and beyond our contract price with Animal Control Solutions for impounding animals and people who just refuse to pay. So
Right.
That's what that's for.
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, take a motion to approve resolution 2025-110.
So
So
moved.
So moved. All right.
Second. That's what you get.
Did you catch Andrew's? Did you catch Andrew's disease?
Call vote, please.
Somebody else.
Aye.
Hickey?
Gina was second.
Oh, Gina was, okay.
Gina was second.
What?
Sorry. Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. And take a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Any items for discussion under new business? No.
Maybe next.
Old business. Committeeman Hickey, utilities.
No real updates, but may have noticed it's been raining. It's never stopped raining for the last month, so it's been slowing JCP&L down. They have to do some additional electrical work, digging, flow molding to complete the repairs on Robertson and the interconnection of the 2 switches. They have committed to do that next week. And the reason I bring this up is I know there's been a lot of concern about repairs to irrigation systems along Hills Drive, lighting issues, landscaping issues. Once they finish all the wiring and the testing, they will then go back and address all those issues. We're going to coordinate with both the Hills Village as well as Hills Village North to make sure all their issues are addressed. That will likely start to take place probably within the next 2 weeks. So stay tuned.
So we did talk about bringing JCP&L in here into these chambers for a public discussion of their approved improvements
Yes,
and their anticipated
yeah.
improvements.
So they
So
want
we-
to hold
we
off
were
on that
looking-
until they complete the current phase of activity.
So we anticipated at one point that we'd be doing it in June or
June.
July.
Probably looking more like August, if I had to guess, because everything's gonna be hopefully wrapped in July, and then they'll come in and tell us what they did and what they're gonna do next.
By August, you mean September, October?
Depends on the rain, Mayor.
Okay, all right. Well, it's JCP&L, so we'll keep that up. And so on that issue, you're going to continue to follow up with them just so that we know when it's done.
Yep.
When they're going to be ready.
Yep.
So that we can get it out on through our social media and other networks.
Yep.
That would be holding that public session for Q&A with JCP&L.
Was in communication with Bob Flynn today on this
Okay.
very topic,
Okay, great.
and no other updates on any of the utilities.
Okay, John, Doug, Pluckerman Senior.
No.
No one's advancing the ball.
Let Robin let the minutes reflect furtive glances between Committeeman Stevenson.
No, there's no
Eduardo.
update there, Mayor. There's no.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Doug and I
maybe next
continue to
meeting.
talk on that.
Somerset Hills Public Safety Committee meeting. Robin and I attended the one with Chief Bernardo, Mayor Crigliano, Mayor Canoes. Am I missing Mayor?
Right.
Oh, I might be missing Mayor on the last, maybe that was it. It was Somerset Hills Public Safety.
Rich?
That's a short group.
Yeah, no, Kevin, Kevin was busy.
No
Fields?
Bridgewater, no Berners Township.
Mayor Fields did not participate, and one of the things that we did discuss is trying to promote, get some information out on a county program regarding title fraud. There's some, historically, I think there's Lieutenant Polito, at least one or two incidents going back in Bedminster about perhaps someone claiming ownership of a property that they did not own. There's certainly been a lot of discussion about this in newspaper articles, and there's no reason to think that it would not hit Bedminster in any capacity, whether you've got a 100-acre estate or whether you're living in a condominium. The title fraud issue is real. The county put together some information about it. There's some private services, but really all they're doing, they'll help you track your title. It's not necessarily preventative. But I think one of the issues that we need to get out there is that folks should be aware of it. They should be very careful about all their private information, social security, all this other information. And we want to really sort of get that out into the public. Robin, where do we leave off on that? We're supposed to get some additional information out of the county?
So we were, and Chief Bernardo actually did follow up the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office, and from a law enforcement perspective, there's been nothing that the prosecutor's office has been involved in with regard to deed theft, or I should say title fraud. But we were going to look into other services that could people could sign up for
Yeah.
at the municipal, county, state level.
So it's interesting that the title fraud issue or the deed theft that was being promoted by the county was not from the prosecutor's office as
No,
a
from the clerk.
law enforcement or policing issue. It was really from the county commissioners on a notification issue, notice of the issue itself.
Right.
And this is something that your title policy would not ensure. it's a subsequent risk. Yeah. So this, people think, oh, I've got title insurance, not so. That's for things that existed at the time you took title and existed prior. So if something happens after you buy, this is not something that would be insured.
And then you find out that all of a sudden that there are loans or mortgages being taken against your property without
That's
your
right.
knowledge.
That's what's happening. It's not that someone's coming in and stealing your property. It's that they're pretending that they're you and they're pledging your property in exchange for a loan, and a bank out there, or lenders giving money, and the instrument they're taking back is a mortgage on your property. And then you also, you get a default letter. What do you mean I'm in default for what loan? I've never heard of you before. And next thing you know, you're being foreclosed on by a bank you've never done business with. And you could potentially lose your home through the mortgage foreclosure process. So it's real. It is a real thing, and people are the sophistication of fraudsters, let's say, it's alive and well in this arena, as well as ACHs and wire transfers. Right.
So Lieutenant Polito, I'm not sure if you've had many further discussions with Chief Bernardo about this, but it is something I want to keep on the, on the front burner for the Somerset Hills Public Safety Committee, and perhaps doing some outreach and maybe some coordinated outreach with the other municipalities as well. All right. We do have an executive session. We will not be taking any formal action following our executive session discussion. So we will go through Township Committee comments. We will adjourn to executive session. Then we will return to public session, but only for the purposes of adjourning and closing the meeting. For those in the audience, you're more than welcome to stay to see us say goodnight, but you don't have to. So we'll go through Township Committee comments, and then we'll adjourn to executive session. Start with Township Committee comments with Committeewoman Fernando.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody coming out and with their questions. I always like to have people in the community involved in our meetings. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Bryce Rosen Memorial Run is on Saturday, June 28th at River Road Park. And registration's at 8 o'clock, and the race starts at 9:15. And
real quick, the
yes.
proceeds from the run go to
Make-A-Wish.
Make-A-Wish New Trust.
And also just want to thank again Robin and our auditors and everyone that participated in our budget. It's a huge undertaking, it always is, and I'm glad to see it introduced. So, and that's all.
Great, thank you. Committeewoman Mareski.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out, especially about affordable housing. I know Gina and I have been working to try and get some things moving along, and it sounds like it's finally beginning to, so I'm excited to go ahead with those. I want to remind everybody about Moth Night, which is the same night as the Bryce Rosen. That's going to be a busy day, 8:30 at night, River Road Park. And while I'm not excited about how the process went down, I am happy that we are able to uphold JVH, both the building and the organization, the education. It's going to be exciting going forward.
Great, thank
So
you.
thank you all who participated.
Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no further comments.
Committeeman Stevenson.
No comments, Mayor. Thank you.
And I have no further comments. At 8:44, take a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Aye.
Good night at all.
Good night.
It is 9:11 and Township Committee has returned from our executive session. As I indicated earlier, we are not taking any formal action. Now it's 9:12. At 9:12, I'll take a motion to adjourn for the evening.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you and good night.
Wow.
Oh my God. You pulled that so moved out of nowhere.